Hello and welcome back to your advanced Java programming course, and in this video we are going to be practicing with the last index of and indexOf methods with the substring method. So let's start by creating a simple string such as string sent for sentence equals, and inside we will have a random sentence, close with a semicolon. And now we're going to test out the indexOf method. So we have to create an int variable. Since the indexOf method returns an int variable, it's called int num equals, type in sent dot indexOf, and let's test out a character for this first one. So that is single quotation marks, and let's say R. We then create the output line that will print the number that the indexOf returns. So we have R over here. So if we follow our number place system, that's 1, 2. So that should be 2. And as we can see, our indexOf method has worked correctly, and we have 2 as a result. Now let's test it again, but using a full word, such as random. Now, if this works correctly, it should still print out the number 2. And it does. And now let's test out the last indexOf. Now, as I've said in the last video, the last indexOf works in the opposite direction to the indexOf method. IndexOf works from left to right, but last indexOf works from right to left, which is useful for finding the last word or the last space in a sentence, if you intend to remove the last part of a sentence. So we're going to change the value in the brackets to a single quotation mark, and let's say the last space. And then we type in last indexOf instead of indexOf. Now if we follow this line right here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it should be 8 if it's working with the last space, whereas the normal indexOf will work with 1. So let's print out the result. It prints out 8, so it does indeed work correctly. And just so you can see how the normal indexOf would print the result, let's run the program again, but this time it will print 1. Since it works from left to right, this is the first space it comes across, and the last indexOf, this is the first space it comes across. Now suppose we would like to separate the sentence using a substring. Within this substring, we are going to use the indexOf methods. So we're going to take this example sentence and we're going to remove the word random. And the way we do that is simple. Let's remove the output line first. And now let's create the substring. So we're going to take a string variable called word, and now we're going to use substring with the sent variable dot substring. And we intend to remove the word random from the sentence. So what we'll have to do then is type in the indexOf that fits the parameters. So that would be indexOf and then random. We then create a simple output line and have it print word. Now, as you may have already guessed, this is not going to do what we wanted to do. It will cut off the sentence at random, but it will still have the following after the word random. In this case, space sentence. So what we're going to have to do is add the second value to the substring. But how do we work out the value correctly, supposing that random is anywhere else in the sentence? Do we use the last indexOf? Well, that won't work as well, as you know, because it will print out where the random sentence starts. So then the result will be, if we use the exact same word and the last indexOf, it'll just be nothing. Nothing will be printed, there'll be no value, since it stops and ends at the same point. So what we'll then have to do is take an account for the random itself. So we take in how many letters it will be. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 letters. So it's simple. We just copy this line of code, type it in, plus 6. And since math also works within the brackets, this should print out exactly what we want. And it does indeed. We have the word random, and as you can see, there's no space before or after. So now that we've created a flawless line of code for searching for the one word random in a sentence, we can now have the user input the sentence. So suppose we have another string sent equals, and a J option pane. Input dialog and enter a sentence containing the word random. Close of a semicolon. Now since we're no longer using this line of code, we can remove it as well. And now when we run the program, wherever we type random in a sentence, it should work correctly. So this is another and random sentence that I'm writing. And as you can see, random is removed without the spaces, perfectly done. You must take note that it is especially important that you create lines of code that do not rely on you to constantly change to suit the user. You have to create lines of code that suit every user. In other words, it has to be universal, depending on what the user enters. As long as it contains what we are looking for, the code should work. We do not have to always adjust it. For example, I could change this line of code to specific numbers, but the user may not enter in the word random in those specific areas. This is a more advanced way of looking at the substring and indexOf methods. The last indexOf method does come in handy, but indexOf should be the main method that you'll be using. So don't worry too much about the last indexOf method. I recommend practicing with these methods together because they will definitely come in handy when it comes to object-oriented programming, which is the final section of our course. Using these 3 methods, you might get a better idea of the number place system and working with methods hand in hand, which is no doubt an essential skill in programming. In the next video, we will discuss the project for this section.